Hello, and welcome to Unity Church on the Mountain from my home. The title of the talk today is Love. But before we do the talk, let's begin by affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. Together, let us take in a deep breath, slowly and gently. In. Hold it a short time and release slowly, gently. And one more in. And releasing. Breathing in. And release. From this secret place inside of us, let us affirm together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And so, love. What is it that I mean by love as I give it the title of a talk? It might be easiest to begin by saying what it is not. Love is one of those words that is used in our day-to-day talk. And generally speaking, when we use that word love, we don't mean what I'm trying to talk about this morning. What love is not, and the easiest way to recognize when my consciousness is not in that state of love is to notice that I am in judgment. If I am in judgment of myself or others, then I am not in love. I am not coming from love. So judgment and love are different. They are exclusive of one another. We could relate in fear as in love, but think about fear, and doesn't it always come from some kind of judgment? Anxiety, judgment, these things that are an antithesis of love. And then love, things like joy, compassion, peace, gratitude, love, judgment. Love. There's a very few things that we affirm when we become a member of Unity Church on the Mountain. One of them is to support one another on our path to Spirit. And that doesn't mean with judgment. That means with love. And the other one really tells us or gives us guidance about how to do that. And it comes from the Bible, and it's in two places, but I'm going to read from Matthew today. So I'll be reading from the Lamsa translation in Matthew chapter 22. And to give a little context beyond what I normally say for this, I want to start at verse 34. So Matthew 22, beginning at verse 34. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them, who knew the law, asked him, testing him, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus said to him, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. And the second is alike to it. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang the law and the prophets." Okay. On these two commandments hang the law and the prophets. That law is written on our heart. This is our guidance from Spirit. So let's look at the meat of this. And going back to the original Aramaic, let's look at what is it that Jesus meant when he gave us this teaching. So let's look at verse 37 in depth. And to understand this, we first have to get an idea of what we mean when we say, "the Lord your God." And again, it might be easy to start by saying what we don't mean. And we don't mean some Superman or super father figure that's sitting on a throne in a cloud with the law, with white hair and a white beard and a book of all the good boys and the bad boys and all the good girls and the bad girls. We don't mean a Santa Claus-like figure sitting there and passing judgment on us. What do we mean? The Aramaic word here is Allah. It's sacred unity. It is, and that's still coming short of what it means, because there's not going to be a way that we can describe what we mean by Allah with words. Remember last week when I talked about the I am, Ahaya Asher Ahai, which Lamsa gave us guidance in a translation as living God. But he left it as Ahaya Asher Ahai because it can't be translated. It is, I'll use the fancy word, ineffable. It can't be described. It can't be known by our intellect. There is no language that can put this beingness, this ongoing process that is Allah, into words. It is the creation that's going on within us now. It is this process. And we partake in it. At the creating end, at the expressing end. And Allah is within us and all around us and within each of us. Okay, so what we don't mean is something outside of ourselves. When we're looking at this, we're talking about God within us, Spirit within us, truth within us. And yes, love. Okay, so let's get down into this verse a little deeper. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your heart. Now, let's back up just a few words, because that Aramaic word that's being translated as with here is better translated as from. Now that changes things around, doesn't it? To say to love that divine existence, that universal beingness that is expressing through us from our heart, from all our heart. And we don't mean the pump. There is a consciousness that is our heart. Consciousness is not only centered in the brain. Remember, we move from head into heart in the affirmative prayer process. Okay? From all our heart. And the next one is from all our soul. Now this is one of those words, okay? So let's dig into that, what that is in the Aramaic. The Aramaic word here is nausha. And it means more the self. Self with a capital S. Remember last week, I am is a translation of inanna, the I. The I within the I, that self. So we are loving that divine that's expressing through us with all of our beingness, with all of our self. From all of ourself. And from all your might. Might. And what is meant here? We have a faculty, I talked about it 2 weeks ago, called power. Power. That's a more accurate translation. That's for this word might. Energy. With all, from all, our energy, from all our power. And the last final one is from all your mind. Our total consciousness, our total thinking, feeling self. Some of our mental activity. Mind doesn't mean brain, okay? So we're taking all of this that is a part of who we are. Our heart, our self, that higher part of us that's within us. Our power, our total energy, and our consciousness. And from this, we're loving that divine that is within us. Okay, so now we have this vertical idea, this going to the balcony, climbing that mountain type of love. When we are in this state, when our total beingness is in this love of spirit. And what does it say is the second? See, first means we have to get this first. And then from this this total allness of us, loving that highest part of us, what does it say to do next? Verse 39. And the second is like to it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So there's that love again. This self is the same word nausha from the previous verse that was translated as soul. And who is our neighbor? That English word is not even close to what is implied from the Aramaic. The neighbor is not the person who lives next to us or stands next to us on our job or is in the next cubicle over. That's not our neighbor. This word that's translated as neighbor is more appropriate to say everyone we come in contact with at any time in any place. Anyone who we come in contact with, we're to love them as that highest part of ourselves. This is the horizontal. So we get to that vertical love, and then we share it horizontally. And every time we do this, we affect ourselves and everyone around us and the entire vibration of the universe. You know, we talked about trauma, personal trauma and collective trauma. And this is the key to integrating both personal trauma and collective trauma. We get into that vertical love space. And from that space, we love ourselves. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And who are we talking to? We're talking to Allah. And where is Allah? Not on the cloud, not out there. Allah is right here. Forgive. We, from our highest place within us, forgive ourselves. We love ourselves. And then we love everyone we come in contact with. Love. Charles Fillmore uses words for love like harmonizing principle. Harmonizing principle. Think about what goes on in our body. Every part of our body, every cell, groups of cells in the system has a function to do in the body. And when the cells are doing the function that is theirs to do, then we have wholeness. But let a cell or a group of cells decide to go it alone and act for their own, separate from the whole body. And what do we have? Dis-ease. We have separateness. We don't have harmony anymore within our body. And how does that manifest? I hate to even use the C word, but you know what it is. When the cells begin to multiply separate from the body, but when we have harmony, each cell does the function that is its to do, that is its own. We have wholeness, a whole body in expression of truth. And now think of each person in the collective humanity as a cell. When we operate together, each person within the body of humanity doing what is ours to do, we have harmony. How do we know what's ours to do? The kingdom of heaven, that counsel of spirit that we hear when we're in that vertical love. We know what is ours to do. We act upon it. When we fail, we have forgiveness. Remember? Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. We can be knocked down because stuff happens. But when we're knocked down, we're not knocked out because we go back to that vertical love. We get back up in forgiveness of ourselves, in forgiveness of those around us, and we do what is ours to do. And as we do this, not only are we working on the trauma within us, but we are working on that collective trauma that's been building since the beginning of humanity, and we began to divide ourselves into families and tribes, clans, nations, races. All of this collective trauma and the results of these divisions begins to be healed as we move into that vertical love. That is first. And from that place, we love everyone we come in contact with as that highest self within us, the Nausha. The spirit breaks this week are to use one of your spiritual tools, any of your spiritual tools, to bring yourself into that vertical love and then share it with everyone you come in contact with. The trigger, the key to know it's time for a spirit break will be when you find judgment. Judgment should be the trigger this week to say, I need to find my vertical love and then share it horizontally. We can't share it horizontally until we bring it to self, till bring it vertically with the divine. It's not something we do by ourselves. We need that help of spirit. I want to share a song with you. This is one that I wrote in cooperation with my brother Jason. And what I did was I was reading The Golden Key, which is an essay by Emmett Fox. And I had from Spirit this inspiration to write a new song. And Spirit led me to this essay, and as I read it, certain words began to jump out. And I knew the statement of the Golden Key was important. And I needed to be able to bring it to my consciousness at the times when it was valuable, because I wasn't thinking about God. I wasn't in that vertical place. My consciousness was somewhere else. And so a statement of the Golden Key is, this is directly from the essay, stop thinking about the difficulty, no matter what it is, and think about God instead. All right, so I said it slightly wrong. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. think about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about truth instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about love instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God, and I'm a child of God. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of truth, and I'm a child of truth. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of love, and I'm a child of love. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God. God is love. I am love. God is true. I am true. God is love. I am love. And God is true. I am true. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about truth instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about love instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God. And God is with me now. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of truth. Truth is with me now. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of love. Love is with me now. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God. God is love. I am love. God is true. And I am true. God is love. I am love. God is true. I am true. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about truth instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about love instead. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. God is with me now. God is with me now. God is guiding 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 me now. So, if you find yourself in judgment, fear, anxiety, or anger, stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is. Go to that vertical place, that place of vertical love. Think about God instead. Let us close with a prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Thank you.